Good morning. This is Carla Harris, and you are with us on Conversations with Carla. Good morning. This is Carla Harris, and welcome to Conversations with Carla. Today is Monday, June 22nd, and today my guest is Michael Goldstein. He is the president and CEO of Land Infotech. So we are in this remote work environment for the long haul. How are we going to move forward as organizations helping our teams stay and work effectively from a remote environment? So today I'm going to be talking with Michael Goldstein. And Michael has been in the IT industry for 30 years. He is the president and CEO of Land Infotech, which is an IT consulting and cybersecurity firm based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. Nice to have you here and welcome to the show. So let's just jump right in. We are in a time that we have never been in before. We are remote working. Companies are working remotely that really have no idea, never thought that they would work in this kind of environment. So tell me, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen as we wrap our head around this?
Sure. This past 3 months feels like it's 3 years already.
Yes.
We've always been prepared or somewhat prepared for short term like this. I mean, being in South Florida, hurricane season, we've had outages, but we've never had the full workforce being fully remote. On the first few days when we realized what was coming, all of our clients pretty much went in abandoned ship. Whatever they had, they maybe took, maybe firms prepared, and we're supporting all different types of technologies. So far, the most successful clients are the clients that already pre-planned a little and had something in the cloud. It could be as simple as your Gmail account. Some way of at least communicating out to the world. And we're really kind of preparing now for that second or third wave. I have a son who works for Chewy, large company in Dania Beach. I mean, they're first planning on revisiting this on August 15th. So I mean, the longer term has been definitely difficult. We're a full service IT firm, so we're supporting everything. We have the 1-2 person shops all the way up to the large 500 1,000 shops in retail and hotel. So I think the challenges have been is that if the firm didn't go out and give you equipment, you rushed home. You probably were used to working maybe on your iPad or something simple and realize, oh my God, QuickBooks doesn't work on that. I don't have a remote solution. So you might have dug out of the closet or went into one of your spare rooms if you're, if you're like me, where all my kids are out, and you're trying to work on that old machine. In the PC world, the issues we ran into is that sometimes it would be, a half day for them to get all the proper Windows updates. Let me get my mail. Oh my God, there's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people at home now. You were on that basic, internet package. What do I do?
Definitely.
And I think one of the biggest challenges we found for a lot of industries is that they never had a scanner at home. They rarely printed. So, we're learning all these unique challenges. And, from our company piece, just supporting those home workers. In the first couple months, just like any other business, yes, we were considered, we were able to go out and work, but we had all of our employees at home. I couldn't go to your office to serve things. I didn't want to, take a chance that one of my employees would contract the virus. Other sides of it is now that businesses are somewhat going back. how do I handle the home service? Maybe it wasn't under your contract. How do I send, an engineer that might be male to a single female's house? All of those implications. You knock over that expensive vase. Is it my claim? Is it your claim? So there's a lot of non-technical issues. But the other thing, yeah.
So let's just go a little deeper here. So you talked about working with larger companies. You talked about working with smaller companies. Are the tools different depending on the size of a company? What are some of the key points that small business owners have to look for to be effective?
So I think that, now that we know this is going to be longer, I think consistency in communications out to your client, no matter what vertical you're in. As an example, when I had to contact the lawyers that represent us for various things, one day I'm on a meeting with Google Hangouts. The next guy that's consulting maybe on my taxes is using GoToMeeting. So I think it's a consistent messaging that's out there. We try to make sure that, for us, our clients don't necessarily know, other than the backdrop here of, where we are. So I think it's being a consistent message that's out there, and then setting expectation levels. We've run into it. Someone has a problem with all this rain in their house. An engineer, just like everyone else, now has to go out and request that time off. Trying to put into our businesses that set your expectation level up. If someone has to be on at 7 o'clock in the morning to start answering the phones or doing their work, the business owner, doesn't care that the dog's sick. You have to treat this like you can't come into the office. I think there's instances where we have to set that workplace area. Listen, sometimes people are in that 1-bedroom apartment. I dog sit for my son sometimes, on the days that I'm broadcasting or doing things. There's certain exceptions. So I think that the expectation has to be laid out there. And then now that it's longer term, if that person's not productive and maybe he's on an older piece of equipment and complaining all the time, whereas maybe sometimes in the office, the business owner says, oh, I'm going to get to that. We have to get to that now.
Yeah. I think part two is, I think part of it is on the onus is on the employer to make sure that in those scenarios that you're talking about, that leaders understand that their teams are human, right? So dogs might bark, babies might cry. We are in a place where we have to think quickly and swiftly on our feet to make sure that when we're hosting these kinds of programs, I mean, this broadcast is here and my dog is sitting right next to me, and it is my prayer that she just won't start barking. But so we have to just understand that we are human. And I think as a small business, and I work a lot with my contractors are remote. They're in other parts of the country, not just in Florida. And I look at what do I have to do to make sure that I'm able to serve my clients well. So from our perspective at the People Institute, we've had to really just optimize all of our training for virtual platforms. And, as we prepped for this call, you and I talked a little bit about that from, how do we get up and move around versus sitting when you're doing a 2 or 3 hour training. And I think that companies have to really look at that kind of, at those various situations. So let's go back to small businesses, because most of the people that we work with and that, watch over time this show are small businesses. Some of them are solopreneurs. How do we not, blow the whole budget, but still have quality equipment, stream with quality video, that kind of thing?
Sure. So, everything starts off with, having a good desktop, laptop, looking at what's in the budget. And of course, like like the auto industry. You can get plain vanilla, or you can get high end. It depends on what you're looking to accomplish, but you can't be scared to ask the questions. And I always think that, an educated consumer is our best customer. I think that the old Cy Sims piece, because you really have to understand, you see behind me, I have laptops, I'm sitting here with a brand new one that I got that's in place there, just because now I find that as I'm on all these calls and I'm doing 5 things, I need more horsepower. So I think that you can't shop on price. You have to understand what everyone needs. You also have to evaluate what you're using in the cloud. If you're a small business and it's more important, make sure that you have a .com and you're not just using a Gmail. Evaluate what Google offers versus Office 365. We're a big Office 365 shop. We started offering our clients, and even not even our clients, not-for-profits, cities, schools, Microsoft Teams training. Try to do more with less, and maybe not have 5 applications, where maybe 1 or 2 make sense, and it's cost effective for some of the businesses, because just making that transition of working in the office, maybe having real business class internet, having access to other tools and things along that line. Now that we're all working remote, we really have to make the best of what we have. Like you and I have. I'm in a separate room where I'm broadcasting. We're finding that you have to find that proper place. You have to be close enough to your Wi-Fi access point, or even in your pre-notes. If you know that you're going to be on and Wi-Fi isn't there, the old school having an Ethernet cable, be directly connected. There are all these little basic things that we have to try to figure out, especially having a separate workplace that I can go in, because without that workplace, I'm finding that 6 hours passes by and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even eat today. So I think that's why the expectation levels that have to be set, whether you're a solo practitioner or not. And then if that machine's running slow, and it takes you 10 times longer because you're used to something better in the office, you really have to start looking at hardware upgrades and what fits your budget. But you always have to talk to a professional and make sure that it's going to run all of your applications.
Okay, we have some questions here. So Karen from Firepower Seminars says, what do business owners need to be aware of in the IT area? What do we need to know that we may not know? So, the old saying is, you don't know what you don't know. So what do we need to know that we may not know?
So there's a couple things. Our biggest discussion pre-COVID and post-COVID has been cybersecurity. So I think that your employees need to have some cyber awareness training. We've seen a huge uptake in the cyber marketplace. It's not just, us saying it, trying to sell something. Every week I'm on a call with the FBI. I see all these pieces that are out there. So you have to have a cyber awareness plan for your employees. Secondly, the most important thing is understand where that data is being stored and have a backup plan. So we're finding that, someone's working at home, they start saving all their information because no one ever told them differently on their local hard drive. There was no backup. You could be set back weeks. So I think it's trying to understand what your employees are using, have some cyber awareness training in there, or at least some notifications that, as simple as, hey, if you're doing business with Bank A and you're getting all these emails from Bank B about your loan being due, don't click. So the cyber awareness piece, and making sure that you have some type of, and I can't even call it business continuity plan because we're in that already, some type of backup. And that's why I always say it's important to set that expectations and understand, what your employees are doing and what you expect of them.
Karen also asks again, which is really interesting that you're talking about the cloud. Is there, and I've often wondered this too, is there any possibility that the cloud could go down? And then I know you talked about cybersecurity, so talk a little bit about the hackers and the cloud.
So I will say that, listen, I've grown up in IT forever. And I've always said that for every lock, there's a key. And it doesn't make a difference whether, it was 30 years ago, me working in a law firm, worrying about shredding paper or going out there, or someone stealing your password today. I think that the cloud could be hacked. But when you look at the Googles of the world, the Microsofts of the world, I'll use those too. They have a heck of a lot more security than any of us could potentially have there. But a lot of this comes back down to, simple basics. If I had this great alarm system put in my house, and my son left the window open, what good is that alarm system, right? So
Yeah.
you think about the cloud being that big alarm system, and there's certain things that you have to go out and educate your employees. And really, if they lost the key or let someone else have the key to their system, how good is that cloud? You can't blame that on Microsoft. You can't blame that on Google. So it's important that your cybersecurity starts at home. Your password is your key to the cloud. I think it's important that at LAN, and little self plug there, we offer no charge cyber awareness training. So anybody that's listening, you can contact us, say that you heard us on Conversations with Carla, and we'll offer you no charge online cyber awareness training. And some of these things sound very basic, like don't use the same password, don't share the password, change your passwords, maybe have a password manager. And I hate to say it, it sounds really basic. Please read your email. If it looks a little weird, pick up the phone and call that. If your boss says, hey, I need to wire this money, and we just had this happen with someone where it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were working at home. The bad guys are getting much smarter. You can get an email that looks like it's from your coworker, your boss, the president of your company, and they follow up. It's not just like, hey, please, I need you to do this. The message might come 10 minutes later. Hey, I'm waiting for this. Pick up the phone, read that email. If it looks a little weird, don't click on it. There's nothing that's for free that's out there that you're going to get in that email.
Especially not millions of dollars.
Oh my God. You look at all, yeah. I do keep a lot of these things as collections, but there's always those things. And I look at some of the key phrases. P.T. Barnum always said a sucker is born every minute. That started in the late 1800s. And I think throughout each decade, you'll see these things. If those emails were unsuccessful, we wouldn't see them all of the time. None of us have that cousin in Nigeria that's going to give us $1 million for looking at that. And we laugh at the things, but if it wasn't successful, they'd stop. So it's general awareness that's very important. And you have to portray that back to your employees and practice it yourself.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned was a password manager. I use a password, a vault, if you will, called LastPass. Are there any other areas that you would recommend for people to use in the area of password management?
So we both use the same piece of software, so that's good.
That's good.
And what I do is, listen, I'm just as prone as you are. I had an incident with American Express 6-9 months ago with a problem. Actually, it happened over Labor Day weekend. So I'm very diligent in my passwords. I think it's important that you just don't use the free browser password to save everything. I know where to get that off of your PC. I'm a big believer in paid programs. So if you're paying for something like LastPass or RoboForm, you're entitled to support. And usually you got to understand those things. I think that, having a whole plan, not just having the password manager, having a paid piece of antivirus on your PC, Mac, and remember, Mac people, you're just as exposed as PC people. There's a reason that Apple always has those updates that are out there, just like Microsoft does. So I think it's a whole plan. It's not just, dieting for a week and then hoping that, a month later you'd still have the weight off. My biggest problem that goes out there, you got to change your lifestyle. And in the cyber side of it, we have to change your lifestyle. There's a plan of things. It's not, obtrusive to go out there, but it's just the way we do things today.
So a question, how often should we change our password if we're not using a vault? And I put that caveat in there because, as you know, with LastPass, you just click it and it automatically changes it for you. So how often should people change their passwords?
So there's so many different schools of thought on this on there. I look to try to change some of my passwords, the important ones, quarterly. I'm just paranoid to go out there. I secure my desktop. I secure things with a VPN. So quarterly is a good type piece. What we do for businesses, we'll use Office 365. We're a big proponent of that. We set flags in Office 365 to go, 60, 90, 120 days, just to kind of force people to go out there. Banking, it is a different story, because the three letters that you get out of this, 2FA, two-factor authentication, is a very important.
Yeah.
So I view that as have something, know something. So as I showed you, I had a new laptop here. When I started it up this morning, I connected it to my Office system. And basically the first thing Microsoft does is my cell phone is sitting out there and it's encrypted in the software. It texts me a 6-digit code. So if you have 2FA in there, and most of the banks have that and go out and are out there, you don't have to change your password that often, because it's have something, know something. And a lot of the financial institutions go out there and they notify you if there's a crazy login that comes in or a password got changed. So if you're not using 2FA, and Amazon, eBay, Facebook, all these places have 2FA, you're a little less likely to get hacked than the next guy. So I don't look to change those passwords as often.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. I feel like I'm going through a lesson here, and I'm actually passing the quiz, because I use the 2FA all the time with my phone. And I have, I've been fortunate. We had a big hack, not hacking, someone got into our Netflix account. And that just made it makes you see, one, how vulnerable you are, and
Yep.
two, how you don't think about things like Netflix being hacked. And it does have my credit card information, because that's how they, charge my subscription every month. But it's really kind of interesting. So I'm glad that we're on top of things. A question I have for you. So you talked about Microsoft, and I had this conversation briefly with one of your colleagues the other day. You talked about LAN Infotech, being a proponent of Microsoft. Everywhere you see Microsoft Teams advertising, TV, everything. And then there's Google Suite and other offerings. So can you give us a really brief overview of the differences between those platforms?
So we also sell Google. We see Google a lot in the education space that's out there. So really one of the big differences is this: depending on what generation you're from, without insulting anyone, the younger generation loves the Google platform, because wherever they are, they don't mind working on the internet. They don't mind browsing. So when you're in the Google Suite, Google Docs is online. There's no actual application. So their Sheets, all those applications are online. Those are really the big differences, because when you're in the Microsoft world, yes, you could use it online, but majority, I use Microsoft Outlook right now. I can't live without Outlook. Even though I have a Gmail account, it's a little weird for me. I still use Gmail for personal business, and I have that integrated into Outlook. So our big differences really is that most people in the Microsoft world want to have that application running on your machine. So if your internet's out, I could still type and save documents. I can edit my spreadsheets. I can do my PowerPoint presentations. So some of those are staples there. Now, could people mix this? Of course they could. So, really, it's sort of like, does someone like Chevrolet versus Ford? That's really the way I kind of look at it. And wherever one product that hops over, the next one comes up. I don't think you can watch TV prime time without seeing a Microsoft Teams ad.
Yeah.
Google's has some great pieces that are out there also. So I think it's whether you're like chocolate or vanilla ice cream. One's fully online, the other can be online or works locally. So I think it's a preference. Outside of that, you look at the other providers. Yes, someone could have a Comcast email, someone could have a Hotmail account. Those really aren't prone to business. Those are really more, let's just call them retail type pieces, personal emails. So we see both of them. They're both highly secure. We're involved in both sides of it. Google has some really good security that's in place there. They offer some different type products that are out there. And then everybody, when they hear the word Google, they just think of the search engine. They forget, you mentioned Gmail, then they know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
we like them both, and we really do carry them both, and we just see them very industry specific.
Gotcha. So another question from Firepower Seminars. She asks, what is recommended to boost internet access at home, since that is now our office?
So typically when you get home internet, I actually just went through this through my son. He went from company A to company B. We'll leave it at that. And what happens is it's usually not the speed that comes in, but we all rely on Wi-Fi. So usually, we'll just pick the word Comcast. Where Comcast puts it in, there's a wireless router there, a device that broadcasts that's there. Sometimes it's not enough, and you need to, supplement the Wi-Fi in different areas of your house. Because even though we assume everything goes through the air, behind the walls are metal, fluorescent lighting adds to that. So in the business office where we used Wi-Fi as a luxury, because everyone had a hard wire, in your house, you might have to go out there and add some wireless access points. So, I have a set of access points that I added. They actually look like little vases. It only took my wife 3 days to realize that wasn't one of her vases, and it really was another wireless access point. So, they make some of those that are out there because there was no way I could embed it into the ceiling. So enhancing your wireless could be just adding, an extender on there, a wireless extender, or just adding a set of new wireless access points. So, and I put one of those in my living room, one in my other room, because, now that I'm living at home all the time, if it's not 100 degrees out and maybe it's 90, I'll go out, I'll work out in my backyard. So it's not unusual that I want to make sure that Wi-Fi carries throughout the house. And you mentioned Netflix. I put one close to my TV because we're all streaming this stuff now. So so for 2 phases, look at what your plan is. Most of them are, 25 megabits is definitely a good plan. My younger son's moving into a new complex. Some of the other places are offering gigabit internet. So the speed's a good thing, and then you have to worry that your wireless equipment in the house, and they're all reasonably priced. There's so many of them in all the retailers that are out there, but you might need more than one. And what happens with more than one, the one that we use, everything broadcasts the same name. So my wife doesn't have to say, oh, which wireless am I connected to? Is it wireless 1, wireless 2? So you want to find something that kind of all works together as a whole.
Very good. So Michael, this has been an incredible conversation, I think, and it's hopefully we've broken it down where it's not too techy.
Yep.
And very easy to digest. I always like to end with asking my guests the 3 top things that you want to leave us with. So in about a minute or so, let us know, what are the 3 things you want to leave us with?
So I'll break it down, but I will say security. Really make sure in this remote world that you have some plan in place. So the 3 basic things that I would do is have antivirus, have a password manager, and please make sure that you have some form of backup. People don't know. You have to make sure that now that I'm working at home, that your business is being backed up. And it's really important. And most people forget that because we are dealing with moving parts inside those PCs, laptops, iPads. And, again, you could lose weeks worth of work just because someone didn't know. So, and educate them.
Okay. So for backup, if you have a cloud system, does that count as backup, or should there be an external backup?
You know what? As long as you're backing up and you tested it. So if you're using a Dropbox, a OneDrive, or something like that, I always say, move one of those files someplace else. Make sure it's still up in the cloud. Sometimes the software doesn't load or you stopped it for a reason. Just test it, whatever you use it.
Okay.
So you can use a file share. You can use something like Carbonite. You can use a whole bunch of things, but you got to make sure that you have a backup and you test it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation, and everyone, we have his information. If you need to get more information from Michael and his team, his email and phone number and website are on the screen. Michael, it has been a pleasure talking with you. And I know that I will see you once we're able to get out of the house. Maybe we should meet for some coffee for real.
That's right. We got to hope that the world changes a little. So we're praying for that.
Absolutely. So you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us at Conversations with Carla. Today has been a really good conversation, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place. Have a wonderful day.